The most fundamental lie or distortion that, and I would say the greatest crime ever perpetuated against humanity, is the illusion of separation, that we're these limited 3D beings with a finite life. The reality is, the life that we are in is a small part of who we are in actuality. We are infinite beings, born of source, and we will return to source. But in between that is a vast landscape of time and time, beyond duality and separation. Now, somewhere in the early 90s, I was on a course with a teacher called Drunvalo Melchizedek. And I'd done the Flower of Life teachings about sacred geometry and activating our personal Merkaba. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this now because back then, our understanding of geometry was a bit more limited because it was part of the distortion that we're in now. And the Flower of Life is based on something that is slightly distorted. There are higher versions of this. And this is not the video where I'm going to go into this. I will in another video. But for now, there are other options out there, which I will cover in the future. But for the purposes of this, the Flower of Life was the most amazing thing I'd ever done at that time. And the following year, I did a workshop with Drunvalo Melchizedek, and he was there in person. It was called the Earth Sky Workshop. And during this workshop, we went into groups of 7 or 8 people and did healings. Now, this was where each of us had about 30 minutes of healing from everyone else in the group, and Drunvalo himself came down and did healing. During this experience, I had what I can only describe as a pure enlightenment or self realization experience where for a second or two, but it felt infinite, but it probably only lasted about a second, I felt myself within what I can only describe as the heart of all creation. And I realized that I was that heart or a part of that heart of all creation. And so was everybody else. And when I came out of that, it was in a state of complete bliss that lasted for about 2 or 3 days, and then normal life reasserted itself. But the difference this made to me, it was like a before and after in my life. Because although I went back to being just ordinary small Catherine with all my issues at that time, what it did heal was this sense of loneliness I'd always had. I always felt alone, even though I was married with a child, had a family, I had plenty of friends, I had quite a full life. I always felt alone. And this, I'd say about 90% of that feeling of aloneness and loneliness just went, that sense of separation just dissolved. And it took me quite a while to realize that that was what had happened. That experience also gave me something that I wanted to go towards. And it also made me really go into all the heart centered stuff I've done ever since. I've done about 4 different trainings and immersions in heart centered meditations and going into the heart. So it did make a huge difference to me. Now, in Eastern philosophy, there's a concept of the veils of Maya, the veils of forgetting, that we enter through when we're born. And when we enter through these veils, this is where we cut off that sense of unity, of connectedness, and we enter into this separation, which gives rise to an underlying sense of loneliness, being alone. It enhances any abandonment issues we might have, it enhances loss, grief, sadness, all of these feelings we have when we're cut off from something or cut off from the heart. Now, going through the veils of Maya, as we are learning more in 2025, when this video has been made, the extent of knowledge we have about things just gets more and more vast. And we're realizing that the veils of Maya aren't quite a natural phenomenon. It's connected to the reincarnation cycle that we go through endlessly, and we go back up to 4D, the fourth dimension. I believe we're in the fourth dimension now, which is why life's a bit crazy, or the astral plane. We're beyond the astral plane though. And when we die, we were told to go towards the light. And it is a form of false light or a trap, with beings masquerading as loved ones, or perhaps Jesus, or angels, or ascended masters. And we're then persuaded to go back to Earth to incarnate again. So we're caught in this endless reincarnation loop. And there are reasons for this, which I won't go into here. And this happens to the vast majority of human beings. As we're so cut off from source, we don't even realize that all we have to do to reconnect back with who we truly are is to wake up, be discerning, and expand. Now, of course, we have to learn how to do this, but with a bit of work and learning, we begin to go out of this endless loop of reincarnation, and this is getting easier now. Now, beyond this trap, however, is the free will choice to come back. So there's a higher part of us that will have a purpose for being here or a mission here. Some people don't, but a lot of us do. Knowing, and we come back into this realm, knowing that we're being manipulated and that we have to agree to a series of limitations in order to fit into these third dimensional bodies and minds and concepts. Now, as I've mentioned, the good news is, as far as I know, this endless, very low consciousness incarnation cycle has come to an end. The cycle of manipulation has ended. We're still being manipulated to a certain extent on Earth, but even that is breaking down. As things get more crazy, more chaotic, the extremes of division and polarity are so crazy, you have to kind of think, well, you know, I've said this before, but who's right and who's wrong? And the answer is everything's right and everything's wrong, because reality is malleable, very malleable now. So the key is to come into a state of neutrality. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a little exercise or healing exercise in which you can come back to the space of divine neutrality, which will begin to take you into and train you into being more connected. Even though you're stepping back, you're detaching. In the act of that detachment, you can begin to inhabit the part of you that knows you've never been separate. It's within you, that sense of unity, of connectedness to all that is. And there's a little exercise we can do which begins this process. So back to this forgetting and this separation consciousness. Now, as the planet's been flooded with higher and higher frequencies of light, the ground level machinations of darkness are stepping up year by year, the distortion of separation through the tactics of divide and conquer or divide and rule. It's not just that we see this unfolding in politics, media, wars, and so on, but the energy of this is so potent that it's difficult not to react and swing one way or another. I've mentioned before the concept of pendulums or societal egregores, where we get pulled into the consciousness of one particular way of thinking or believing. So we even see this in the tactic of so-called virtue signaling being used. If you don't support this or don't support that, you're uncaring, which is bollocks. Know that you're being manipulated. If you're a caring person, you're a caring person. You just might be more discerning. Now, as the spiritual teacher Sandra Walter often says, care but don't carry. Basically, divine neutrality. This is about being in the heart, in a state of compassion, not sympathy. Sympathy is kind of like an ego-driven emotion. So when you're compassion, you feel for someone. You're not caught up in what you're seeing. And when you're in compassion, you're not being swung in one direction or another. So the personal cost of the distortion, of the forgetting, of being swung in one way or another is separation. If you're completely against something and for this, you're in separation. And that leads to fear, loneliness, anxiety, separation, all these separation, abandonment issues that only cause pain. So we can feel separation and loneliness or alone no matter how many people are in our life. Now, the issue of abandonment, some people have this to a large degree because of maybe events and things that have happened to them in their life. But when we scratch the surface of most people, when we go deeper into our own therapy, our own healing, abandonment's always there to some degree. We'll discover it as we dig deeper and deeper. And ultimately, it always comes down to the belief that we've been abandoned by God or by life, which is untrue. We've never been abandoned. But this is a limitation agreement that we have agreed to, this sense of abandonment leading to loneliness and separation. Now, if we can heal even a part of the limitation of separation, of disconnectedness, then the other limitations we have begin to dissolve. As this separation distortion contains everything else, all our other limitations, it's so intrinsic to our being and to life here. We forget how vast and powerful we actually are, how deeply loved we are. We've never been abandoned. We're all part of the one, of unity consciousness, but each of us is a unique fractal of that, connected, but also unique in our makeup and our basic persona. The other aspect of the world in its attempt to destroy the knowledge of being part of the one is in materialization, materialism, and in the most of the science that's in the mainstream that denies the existence of consciousness being vast and powerful in itself. It's the delusion that we live in a clockwork universe, a TikTok universe, and that this life is all there is. This universe, this life is always working for you. Really take this in. You are supported, you are loved, you are connected. That's always there. It's just obscured by layers of other things. Not knowing any of it is just a forgetting. And it's the result of being on the hamster wheel of endless lifetimes of lack and trauma. There's so much good, so much beauty, so many moments of pure connection in life. There has to be, because if it was really dark and awful all the time, the world would implode in on itself. As the finite loop of lower consciousness will always wear itself out, it has to come to an end, and it is coming to an end because it's based on finite patterns of frequency, code, mathematics, energy, and geometry. It's a finite loop that will just collapse. And truth always has to be present to some degree. And it's an exit door, an escape hatch, so to speak. There always has to be truth, no matter what's going on. If you watch the media, they always have to tell the truth at some point. So we always have access to higher truth. You have the absolute right to that. You have the absolute right to enlightenment, self-realization. But in the past, it took lifetimes to achieve this. It could take a whole lifetime, for instance, to master one skill, one mantra, one spiritual skill. Now we have potential access to everything. So much has emerged, so much information, knowledge is there for all to have access to. So much is being revealed, and this will continue over the next few years. We are moving back to unity consciousness, to a sense of oneness and connection with all. The ability to feel love for all beings, for nature, to see oneself as part of the greater whole, to all in existence is part of that greater whole. Even beings of darkness, they will eventually dissolve as a finite entity back into space dust and be reabsorbed by source. Nothing's ever wasted. Nothing is ever created or destroyed. It just goes on a loop. Now, if you suffer from fear and anxiety, this comes from a place of separation. Heal the separation. At first, it's a separation from self, as in what's going on, and then a separation to something bigger. Forge a feeling of connection, and again, begin with the self. So if you forge a feeling of connection in any way, fear cannot exist in the same place, or space. This can be as simple as connecting with the fear itself. If you fully and completely connect with any fear that you're feeling, just be in that fear. Below that, you begin to feel a connection with something bigger. So when we're in a state of mind, heart, body coherence, we have access to truth. And as I say, just connecting with whatever pain you're going through, whatever fear, when you fully immerse yourself with that in the mind, in the now moment, you are entering into the beginnings of a state of coherence, even beneath all the turmoil. When you're completely with it, you're accessing truth. You've gone beyond the delusions of the ego, which is separation consciousness. We don't need to squash the ego, simply recognize when it's in control. Just work with it. Our heart, our unconsciousness, and our nervous system are aware of a vast field of knowledge. They pick up information, especially our heart, before our brain perceives it, if it does at all. When we're more coherent, we have access to so much more. We become more open to synchronicities, coincidences, and to the interconnectedness of all things, and even allow miracles to happen in our life when we tap into this knowledge field. And if you'd like to take this deeper beyond the little exercise I'll do in this video and begin healing this disconnection, then check out my last mini course in this limitation series that I've been creating. It's called Being Complete and Healing or Dissolving the Limitation of Loss and Separation. I've also now bundled all 5 of these mini courses together into a more complete healing series on limitation, and it's the cost, all 5 for the cost of 4 of them. Now, the following exercise will give a brief glimpse of what's covered in this combination in this course, a combination of a therapy session and meditation. The meditation takes you on a connection with your divine nature. In the mini course, that is, the meditation will connect you with the threefold flame within your heart and take you into an immersion of your wisdom, your love, and your power. And beyond that, we connect into infinity. So the meditation in the mini course begins to entrain you into being part of this vastness. And the video part is basically a therapy session you can go back to again and again, where I'll use breath work to dissolve, therapeutic breath work to dissolve the layers that have built up that lead you to feeling separate, abandoned, and lonely, and whatever else is going on. Now, this following exercise that I'm going to go through now, I'm just going to walk you through it briefly, but I suggest, after the video, you practice doing this, and it need only take 10 minutes, but it will begin to dissolve that sense of separation. So first, come into the heart space in whatever form of meditation on the heart that you like doing, and just breathe in and breathe out from your heart field. And feel this area, the physical area of your chest, your heart, your lungs expand with each breath. And on the out breath, intend that any tension and stress that you're feeling right now is being released through the heart field. And you do this with your eyes closed for a minute or two. Just breathe in and out of the heart, allowing this field to expand. And then open your eyes and perceive something in front of you, just an object in front of you. And do this with complete neutrality. You're observing it as is. If it's, say, a glass of water, it's a glass of water. No opinions about the shape of the glass or anything about the water. You're simply receiving the impression of this object. So there's two key things we're doing here. You're observing with absolute neutrality. If it's a glass of water, say, it's a shape containing something. That's it. And then you're allowing yourself to receive. That glass of water is an object in your field, and you're receiving the impression of it. And within your heart field, you're receiving this almost in a loving way. You can feel love for all the objects around you within your field. And now you close your eyes again and you observe yourself. Observe whatever's going on with you physically, mentally, or emotionally, whatever's on top, so to speak. You might have a discomfort somewhere physically, so that's where your attention's drawn. You might be feeling something emotionally, that's where your attention's drawn. So take a metaphorical step back and simply observe this. Absolute neutrality. And if you've come into the heart space, this becomes a form of neutrality within a divine field. And you just allow whatever you notice to be there. It's like if you're in pain in some way, mentally, emotionally, or physically, you're allowing that pain to be with loving acceptance. And this is a form of detachment, not dissociation. And in this process, we're beginning to dissolve the rigidity of ego perception, of opinion, of story, of attachment to what's going on, and to the past and to the future. We're just here in this now, observing and allowing what is. And if you practice this daily, this simple exercise, just allowing it to break down the barriers that separate, as we break down our attachment to a small self, the ego that has the story and attachments to whatever's going on, and start to open up to a more expanded view rooted in divine neutrality within the heart. And then we can begin to expand this neutrality to world events, and eventually see world events, everything that's going on, the drama of the external, is mere noise. There's a much, much bigger truth behind it all and beyond it all. And see yourself as opening up to that connection. And as you let go of the need to separate yourself through false perception of what is or what's going on out there, we begin to move into a deeper connection with self and higher and higher and higher aspects of self, and reconnect with the innate peace and stillness that we are. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope you get something out of that exercise. So until next time, much love.